There she was, lying in her bed, with her sons and daughter waiting beside her, and her beloved, her Sultan, her Shah, Suleiman was with her, as he always been, and she saw the ghosts, ghosts of the past. She saw her sons, Jihangir and Mehmet, and she felt it. Her time was coming. Then she saw a drop of tear in her husband's eyes, and shivered, either with the fever of her sickness or the thought of death. Her Majesty, Sultan and Shah of the mighty Porte, Hürrem died that day, as all the mighty men and women of the history. An Orthodox priest house was filled with joy. Little Anastasia Alexandra was born. She spent her childhood happily, we would guess, as not much is known about her early life. But one thing was certain, her fate was soon to be changed. Anastasia's town was attacked by Tatars when she saw the ninth summer of her life. She was taken away from her family and her country. They marched for days in the endless steppes till they reached Crimea. She was selected to Crimean Khan's palace to be trained. It was Khan's palace where Anastasia converted to Islam. She was also trained in Turco-Islamic traditions, dancing, playing the lute, and literacy. It is likely that the officials in Khan's palace were impressed by Anastasia's intelligence and beauty, as when she was 15, she was selected among the women that were going to be sent to Constantinople, to the mighty Topkapı Palace, to join Sultan's court, as it was a tradition for Crimean Khans to send the best of the women to Constantinople. And Anastasia was an outstanding beauty, with her copper-red hair, eyes of emerald, and skin of ivory. Thus, Anastasia sailed to Constantinople. Soon after, the minarets of Constantinople were sighted. The sublime silhouette of the city took her breath, as Anastasia had seen none like it. Now she was to live in the palace, under the same roof with the Sultan, and that day she was renamed, from Anastasia to Hürrem. She left her family, she left her country, now she was living her name. During the next few years, she spent her time with learning palace customs and poetry, and took long walks in the gardens of the palace. It was when she saw Prince Suleiman on his white stallion, the only son of the Sultan, others said, and she saw her too. Hürrem knew it. Their eyes matched for a second. Later she learned that Suleiman's favorite, not wife, had given birth to a son, which meant he no longer slept with her. A few years later, Suleiman's father, Selim, had died and Suleiman succeeded to the throne, becoming the Sultan of Anatolia, Egypt, Rumelia, and Syria. Suleiman and Hürrem quickly fell in a passionate love. Suleiman even violated the Ottoman code, which forbade monogamy. Meanwhile, Mahidevran watched this. She saw Hürrem taking her Suleiman another step from her. A year later, the palace was breaking with happy news. Hürrem was pregnant. She gave birth to a healthy son. They named him Mehmet. Mahidevran, on the other hand, was both sad and happy. She was worried that Hürrem's son may be a contender for the throne, but also was happy as Suleiman would now stop seeing Hürrem, as now she had a son. However, Hürrem's and Suleiman's love was too powerful to be broken by a tradition like this. Suleiman kept seeing Hürrem and no one else. They had 4 more children in a row. Meanwhile, Mahidevran went to an Anatolian city to oversee her son's governorship, leaving the palace to Hürrem. Hürrem, on the other hand, was determined to become the first Empress of the Ottoman Empire. Finally, she persuaded Suleiman to break the customs and marry her. They married in a glamorous marriage. People of Constantinople feasted for days, and Hürrem became the first Empress and was now officially called Her Majesty the Sultan and Shah Hürrem. After officially becoming the Empress, she wanted to become an actual Empress, and her husband, Suleiman, supported his wife and willingly shared a part of his power with her. First of all, she moved to Topkapı Palace to be closer to the state. Before that, court ladies lived in another palace far from Topkapı. Meanwhile, her husband was going to campaigns in Hungary and Iraq, staying in those regions sometimes for years. As he brought his favorite advisor and friend Ibrahim with him, the empire needed a governor, and Hürrem was the one that Suleiman chose. He trusted her administrative and diplomatic skills. When Suleiman was away, Hürrem governed as the Empress and met with foreign diplomats and even wrote letters to foreign rulers. Hürrem analyzed the political structure of Europe carefully. As the Habsburg hegemony grew more and more powerful, she knew the Ottoman Empire needed another ally in Europe. She famously conducted friendly relations with the Polish king Sigismund II, sending him precious gifts and establishing relations based on personal contacts. And within a few years, Suleiman would call her "your sister and my wife" in a letter to Sigismund. Throughout her and Suleiman's reign, Poland stayed as a friend of the Ottoman Empire. When Suleiman was away for years, their love never died. Instead, got even more passionate. Hürrem and Suleiman wrote each other elegant but passionate love poems. In one occasion, Hürrem wrote, "Ey sabah, sultanımıza zaru perişan diyesin. Gül yüzünsüz işi bülbül ile efkan diyesin. Tığ derdinle yüreğimi delip destigam, ney gibi fırkatte hasta ve nalan diyesin." And Suleiman replied, "Nameler gelse kaçan İstanbul'u abadan, bu zülfünü sehergeh alırım Bağdat'tan. Gül yüzünden dur olalı bu gönül bülbül gibi, geceler ta subhadek halide gül feryattan." Hürrem showed her grace in charity work as well. She built a university complex in Constantinople, a public hospital, an almshouse, a children's school, and a library was included in this complex. She also built another hospital in the city, as well as a much larger women's hospital. She wanted the best for her people. The requirements for the doctors in the women's hospital included being polite to the patients and not to charge the poor. She built hundreds of other hospitals, schools, and almshouses across the empire. Meanwhile, Hürrem remained on pins and needles, as Mahidevran's son, Mustafa, still remained a crown prince. This was more than a desire for power. This was more than a throne. This was a matter of life and death. According to the Ottoman laws, the first prince to ascend to the throne had to kill his brothers. Hürrem could not let his precious sons die. Not like that. It was either her sons or Mahidevran's. Her worries would disappear as it became apparent that Mustafa was plotting against his father with the Janissaries. He had met with several bureaucrats as well. He deemed his father to be too old. When Suleiman heard this, he was infuriated. He knew this could very well end in a bloody coup, as his father Selim overthrew his own father just like this. Mustafa's plot ended with him being executed by his father. In contrast to popular culture's depictions, Mustafa's execution was more of his treason than a plot of Hürrem. In her later years, Hürrem visited her sons in their governorates. Hürrem and Suleiman lived a happy life, but then their eldest son, Prince Mehmet, died of disease. This has deeply wounded both. Her health deteriorated greatly after this. She would live enough to see her youngest son, Cihangir's death as well. In 1558, Her Majesty, Sultan and Shah Hürrem had died of influenza, leaving her husband behind, haunted, all alone. The Venetian diplomat in the palace would write this: "The Sultan has aged 10 years during the last year. His color is gone. He had fainted several times. He doesn't eat. He doesn't sleep." Celisi halvetim, varım, Habibim mahı tabanım enisim. Mahremim varım, güzeller şahı sultanım. Hayatım hasılım, ömrüm şarabı kevserim. Adnim, baharım, behçetim, rüzum, nigarım, verdi handanım. Neşatım, işretim, bezmim, çerağım, neyyirim, şemim turuncu narur narencim. Benim şem-i şebistanım, nebatım, sükkerim, gencim, cihan içinde bir rencim azizim, Yusuf'um varım, gönül Mısır'ındaki hanım, İstanbul'um Karaman'ım, diyarı milleti Rum'um, Bedeşşan'ım ve Kıpçağım ve Bağdat'ım ve Horasan'ım, saçım ağrım, kaşı yayım, gözü pür fitne, bimarım, ölürsem boynuna kanım, meded hena Müslümanım, kapında çünkü meddahım, sen medhederim daim. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video, and take a look at my other videos as well. Thank you for watching.